Pausing, looping, and slowing down music are three great transcription techniques, but they should only be used to the extent in which they're needed. So you shouldn't go along and pause and keep using the pause technique to find a melody note by note when you're actually capable of doing more than one note at a time. And you shouldn't use the looping technique to loop through each harmony in a piece and learn a song chord by chord when you're able to actually learn more than one chord at a time, where you're actually able to hear the way that the chords move from one to the other. And you shouldn't use slowing down music when you're able to actually transcribe it at real speed. At the beginning, these techniques are going to be extremely useful, and they may be the only way that you'll be able to transcribe music. But as you progress with your transcriptions, you will need to wean yourself off of these techniques. Pausing can be used to isolate any given note in the melody. The idea is the last thing that you hear will stay in your ear, and you'll be able to find that then on your instrument very easily, to sing it and then find it on your instrument. So let's listen to this phrase of music. And let's try to figure out just the fourth note of this phrase. All right, so we're going to pause after the fourth note. So let's go back to our mark, hit play, and we're going to pause right after the fourth note. So we're just going to, right the second we hear the fourth note, we're going to stop the music, okay? So here we go. Okay, so I stopped it just a little late, so I'm going to go back and try to pause it a little bit earlier, try to actually anticipate that note. All right, and now let's sing that note. Dum, and let's find it. Dum. So we used brute force and we found it. Dum. So that fourth note was G. All right. So isolating a note, pausing it, and then finding it is a really important skill. Let's do another note. Let's do the first note of the melody, which might be the hardest sometimes. There. So I just heard the first note. I paused it so that I just heard the first note. Now, boom. Okay, now we're going to look for that. I know what it is, so I'm just going to make a random guess and use brute force. So, boom. There it is. Okay. Boom. So you can see right away that pausing can be a very useful tool when you're stuck at a certain point in a melody. Looping is going to be a lot more useful when we actually start figuring out harmonies or rhythms in certain sections. But for now, when we're just talking about melodies, looping, we can still use looping just to figure out parts of the melody. So for example, let's say we want to figure out the first note of this melody. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a loop that's just going to have the first note in it. So we pause it after the first note. So we're going to put our mark somewhere here. And now we're going to zoom in, and we're actually going to be able to figure out more precise places for these marks. And we're going to actually put the loop on. No, this is mark loop. Yeah. So we're going to actually make these a little closer. It doesn't show that they're close. I'm going to make it a little bit closer. There. Okay. It doesn't show up nicely here, but anyways, the idea is if we put our loops close enough together, we're only hearing that one note in the melody. So again, we're isolating the note in the melody. And now we can sing that first note, bum, bum, and then we can find it on our instrument. So another way to isolate a note in a piece of music. Also, it can also be useful for some people working on maybe two notes at a time. So, right, if the piece of music you're trying to transcribe is fast and complicated, and pausing and looping just aren't cutting it for you, you can actually slow down the music and also use pausing and looping on top of that. But sometimes just slowing it down will be enough to help you to actually figure out some of the notes. So I'm taking this complicated piece of music and let's just try to figure out the first few notes of it. So let's say I just want to try to pause at the first note. Okay, I was too slow. I paused at like the third note. So then what you'll have to do is you'll have to actually slow it down. All right, and now let's try to pause at the first note. So I put it down to 75% of the speed. Okay, still didn't get it. Let's try again. Still didn't get it. Let's go down to 50% of the speed, so it's actually easier. So here we go. So I'm going to start. So boom, that's the first note. So I can sing the note, boom, and I want to find it on my instrument. Boom. Okay, so B. Boom. Okay, let's find the second note. So we're going to pause at the second note. Boom, boom. That's a major 7. Right? Now let's do the third note. So A, again, a major 7. Boom, boom. So those are the first 3 notes. Okay, obviously really complicated. You're probably not going to see anything like this for a long time, but just showing you the power of slowing down and pausing. 2 fundamental techniques that you can always resort back to.